Cleaners have been told about a mission in the last chapter that we talked about a sky person. A sky person is someone like Rudo. Rudo is someone that came from heaven and fell onto earth. So the fact that there were two coming very near from each other, we knew something was off from the very beginning. And so the cleaners headed into the area that was described to have a sky person. But what it was a trap. A trap that led the whole group away from the cleaners, and one that Rudo and Zanka need to fight together. I would appreciate if you guys like and subscribe for more anime, manga, and general fictional content. And with that, I hope y'all enjoy. That was a trap set by the Vandals. And if you remember correctly from chapter 1, we see that Rudo was referred to as a Vandal. So the fact that the Vandals stay relevant here is very important to the story, as they actually do cause destruction and they cause mayhem and they're a mess. That is why it is very dangerous for the rest of the crew to fight against these two at the current moment. The Vandals are a group of bandits that have giver abilities. Giver abilities are those that you can use whenever you use a weapon. These abilities are very powerful and dangerous, which is why they need to be careful from the get-go. But the cleaners also have two givers. The problem is that Rudo is very inexperienced. So how will he deal with this situation? The supports immediately went out and tried to find an escape route. This escape route is one that they can use to get out of the situation because of how dangerous it was. They knew that they wouldn't be able to escape without a fight though, but they need an escape route just in case things get bad. And even if they don't get bad, at least escape out of there before it gets worse. Rudo was told to go with the supports there, as he doesn't have any control over his abilities just yet. And even if he does, his experience is nowhere near someone like Zanka. And so Zanka was left alone, 2 versus 1 in this situation, to fight for the cleaners. The Vandals didn't want to sell Rudo. What they really wanted in this situation was to figure out how he survived the border. You see, when someone crosses the border in this world between heaven and the underground world, they just die. There's nothing that really can hold them together but just passing away. So when Rudo took it without any problem and survived, this is something that is very new to this world. How would Rudo have survived such a cataclysm, especially because everyone else that tries has always passed away? Everything was a trap. From the lady that sent the report out to the cleaners, to the whole situation in general, as there was no aberrant piece, there was no sky person, and it was just the two of them. You see, this was to capture Rudo and nothing more, nothing less. They don't want to kill Rudo. They don't want to sell Rudo. They're just wanting to experiment on him and figure out how he was able to cross the border. Though he seemed to not really care about Rudo to begin with. He didn't care about heaven at all, which is very shocking in this case, because why would you not care about heaven and then worry about Rudo being able to cross it? But before we get those questions asked, we see as he put clay dolls all over the place. These clay dolls were made of the same people that even the lady that we saw from the beginning of the last chapter, the one who said the information, was made out of. And so the Vandals used their abilities together, one hiding in the clays, while the other will attack out of surprise. They were both jumping Zanka. How will Zanka deal with the two of them? At first he was struggling as he was hit from all sides of directions, not knowing where exactly the attacks are coming from. But once he understood the matchup, he knew he had won, as he saw them as weak and found it as an easy victory for him. Zanka showed his abilities, and with this, he's able to vibrate the ground, finding where the real person is, and hitting both the Vandals at once. That was victory for the cleaners. Except, there was one more. You see, this person was late from the situation, and when Rudo and the supports found the exit, he came in. When he came in, he terrified the cleaners, and even blitzed them all, as he was immediately behind all 3 of them, without a second thought. Even Rudo was surprised by his speed. He immediately knew Rudo was the sky person, and attacked them at the very same time. You see, it does seem like This man had just came in from the exit door, but in all actuality, he defeated Zanka and then caught up to them before he attacks Rudo and the cleaners. It seemed the fight wasn't any trouble for him at all, as he used poison. It was a bad matchup for Zanka, which is why he was laid on the floor. This man is like Zoro. He's directionally challenged. All he wants is for Rudo to meet someone and talk to them. And from this assumption, you can assume that this someone is his boss. He will take Rudo the easy way or the hard way, or at least that's what he believes. As Folo and Gris went to attack him, yet he was way too fast for them. After all, they were just supporters, but even with that, his speed was able to blitz Zanka and blitz all three of them, so he was terrifying to match up against. He had giant claws. These claws were imbued with poison in them. But we see something special with Gris here, as he will sacrifice himself over his friends, something that is very noteworthy as a character and one that Rudo appreciates from the very beginning. But this man doesn't care about these supports. He calls them nobodies, and there's no need to protect them, and he finds them weak, just like everyone else in the world. Keep this in mind for the future. But without a second thought, Gris seemed to have been dead. He was stabbed by this man, and he viewed it as not any bad situation, as nobody liked this man. Gris was killed at this moment. Someone that helped Rudo throughout his early beginning was killed again. The life that Rudo had is one that would break anyone. And yet Rudo stays strong, even though he was pissed at the situation. He lost someone that helped him, and the fact that he lost him with a stab on his chest as well, just like Rekko, shows how bad the situation has been in his life. These two have taken care of him and helped him out through their early struggles in the underground world for Gris and heaven for Rekko. You see, when Rudo saw the stab over Gris, he remembers some memories he had with Rekko. These memories are ones where he's frustrated over life, and Rekko teaches him the value that he has, and that his parents are dead and that they abandoned him, and so he believed he was worthless. Well, Rekko pushed onto him that he's not worthless. He's someone with a purpose in life and will push on even more, even if life hasn't treated you correctly, because that's how life is. Life isn't going to treat you right, and that's a great lesson Rudo has. That's why he's always connected with trash from the very beginning, because somebody might have not found it as enjoyable, as lovely, and some people may have found it as useless. This is the same thought that happened with Rudo throughout the early beginnings of the story, which is why he's very impactful, and why this moment here was very impactful for Rudo, as he saw somebody that viewed him as a good person pass away in this moment. He grabbed a trash pendant and looked pissed off. Gris wasn't dead though, as we see him talking, or at least mumbling at the very end. He's fighting for his life, and so in order to protect him, Rudo awakened his powers, making a giant eye monster out of the pendant and looking at the Vandal who almost killed his friend. Overall, this is a very impactful scene, one that is stronger where Rudo has surpassed a lot in life and pushed on even more, even though he was viewed as trash. And so, after calling Gris garbage and useless, he grabbed one thing that is close to Gris and used it to fight against the Vandal who believes he saw that. It is very impactful to his character and is very strong for what he's trying to strive towards. As this is one of the first moments you see that he is not this monster or anybody that's completely a menace. He's someone with a heart. He has a lot that he wants to do in life, but life hasn't treated him well. The Vandal didn't care though. He found it as cool. He found it as something he will fight against, and he got excited over it. Rudo embraces rejection. He embraces everything that people don't want. He will be that person. If you say he can't do something, he will do it. If you say he is like this, he is not. That is Rudo's character, as he's always been fundamentally thrown away and shown as garbage. It is a very powerful statement he makes here to Gris because he wants him to understand that whatever people reject, he will take and make his own because he is Rudo the cleaner, or Rudo the sky person for right now. He is absolutely pissed off for what happened and will use the jinky abilities he has to fight against this man. The man asked for the name as he wanted to rip him shred to shred, remembering his name as Rudo. You see, when people struggle with jinkies, it's because of their emotions or inner self. So the stronger you are to understanding oneself, the stronger your jinky will become. That is why Rudo in the very beginning didn't understand his jinky because he didn't understand who he was as an individual. And even now, where he doesn't even know it completely yet, he just knows it more than he did back then. And even him not knowing it completely is very powerful because him not knowing it completely is still strong enough to push back this Vandal, as he is just a complete monster and will be a monster by the end of the series. Rudo didn't move a muscle though, as the man was just waiting for him to attack. And yet Rudo just stood there. The man thought he was playing with him. Instead, Rudo looked at him and told him to come at him if he wants. The man's name is Jabber, and he will be fighting against Rudo as Rudo didn't call him anything but that name. Jabber wants him to call him that as he yelled out his name out loud. At the same time, he went to attack Rudo, and yet he didn't hit him at all. He looked puzzled. Rudo stood there as nothing happened to him. Continue his attacks. Just dodge, weave, out of here. You can't touch Rudo right now. He is beyond your comprehension. It's like he's using Ultra Instinct with the way he's dodging these attacks. He's way more powerful than he ever was before. The reason for Jabber not being able to hit Rudo is because of the amulet and what it means. As Grizz wants everybody to return home safely. And returning home safely means that no one gets hurt. And so Rudo imagined that the Jinky will just not let the enemies attack hit him at all. And so Jabber really can't do anything at this current moment because the Jinky would just protect him. But with this ability, Rudo didn't even move. It was just Jabber missing. That is what makes this Jinky so powerful, and it is his first one of the day. And if he wanted to use two, as we know he can use more than one, he will be a monster. But then again, how would he be very effective if he can't use the one beforehand where he can't get hit? Because Jabber called Griss's weapon, or Griss in general, useless, he will use this weapon or this amulet to fight against Jabber. That is why Rudo is fighting so hard to begin with, to prove Jabber wrong, that Griss is not this useless, pathetic person. He's someone that matters and is someone who's very caring for his team around him. And if Griss wasn't there, Rudo have died to begin with. And so Rudo hit him with a clean right fist onto the cheek, sending him flying. Rudo looks pissed. He looks terrifying. The Jabber smiled as he was excited over the moment, and Rudo just scolded down on him, finding him weak for what he has said in the moment, and even just not liking him in general for what he's done to the cleaners. Rudo continues to beat down on Jabber. Anytime Jabber comes in to attack, a punch to the gut. And then when he tries slicing down, Rudo didn't even move, he missed Rudo. He tried using the building around him to deflect it, and it didn't work as the eye immediately found him, and he even knew he was cooked at the very moment. Jabber tried speed blitzing him, and yet it didn't work. All it did was make Rudo hit him even harder. Rudo was cursing him out and just beating him down. Rudo completely won this matchup, and it wasn't close. Jabber was laughing as he knew he was defeated, but knew he has something else planned as well. Jabber found out the weakness, as if it's anything hostile, Rudo can't dodge or it won't move out of it. He figured this out by the debris, and so he has a new plan of attack. Jabber stabbed himself in order to attack Rudo, as he just laughed maniacally, and Rudo didn't know what was going on. You see, Jabber falls unconscious. He did this for a reason, so he doesn't seem hostile. Now the amulet really can't do anything now, as Jabber is unconscious and he's not hostile. He is like the debris that Rudo had to dodge earlier. This was just a bad matchup for Rudo because normally nobody really has anything this in their back pocket. Jabber stands up and yells, as he is not himself, he is not nothing, he is just an embodiment, a force to be reckoned with, and has no hostility towards him. All he's doing is destroying everything. Even unconscious, he has this kind of power, if not even more than he did to begin with, because he even just speed blitz Rudo here. Rudo's ability isn't working as he has to dodge and fight against his own will. The amulet isn't working. Rudo in this situation should be switching weapons. Instead, he's continuing to hold on to the amulet because he wants to prove to Jabber that Gris is not trash and he wants to fight with Gris's power. But you don't have to be this hard-headed, Rudo. After all, you are strong enough to beat him if you can figure out a counter with something else that is trash around him. And if he doesn't have trash around him, then of course he's gonna stay with the weapon. But it seems more like a hard-headed situation than him looking for an actual weapon. Jabber is a masochist, as he enjoyed every little moment of him getting beat up, and even him stabbing himself in order to fight well. And so Rudo immediately called this out, but Jabber didn't respond. He was just yelling at him like a maniac, running in there to attack, even though he had no hostility in his heart, because he doesn't. He's unconscious. He's just fighting out of nowhere to protect himself. Rudo is just countered here as he's not sure how to counter someone that's a super masochist in his turn. Jabber made perfect cuts of cubes around them to bounce off of and blitz Rudo, but of course Rudo dodged out of nowhere. Right before Rudo's about to get hit, we see a familiar weapon. It was Zanka. He had gone up and took down one of his weapons before he could even attack Rudo. Zanka was hurt, but he didn't care. All he needed to do was protect the cleaners because of the situation that they are a part of at this moment. Zanka explains the situation to Rudo and what they should do, as he was analyzing the fight from a while away, and while Rudo seemed to care for Zanka over his health, Zanka pushed away and said to not worry about it and more worry about the fight that was going on at the current moment. After all, his health could be healed once they get back home, but for them to go back, they need to defeat Jabber. And so Zanka not only analyzed the situation, but he realized that Rudo mastered his abilities already. The issue is that he has to plan out a way in order for Rudo to dodge the attacks without any issue. And so he came up with a way so that Zanka hits Rudo and makes it seem like he has hostility towards Rudo, so Jabber doesn't get to hit him, which honestly is an actually decent plan here. He plans to attack Rudo and uses Love Stick to hit Jabber before he even attacks Rudo at the same time. They had a small banter between one another, and so when the time was arise, Jabber stood up and went to attack, destroying the pillar that they were behind. But of course they had dodged out the way. Zanka used his plan and it worked perfectly. He swung at Rudo and the Jinky made it able for him to attack Jabber at this current moment because it was two forces coming at Rudo, and seeing as one was hostile, he knew to just use that one person to attack the other, and Jabber was just hit straight in the gut, sending him down onto the ground, and it seems like the plan had worked. Zanka said he was testing out his abilities, but of course it wasn't that. Of course he had hostility in his heart a little bit, which is why it worked to begin with. And so when Jabber stood up again, they decided to continue to do this plan. Zanka stood behind Rudo, and because of the ability that Rudo had, he was able to be forced to move and attack Jabber without Jabber even reacting. This begins a little rivalry between Rudo and Zanka, as they look like they were fighting each other more than they were fighting against Jabber. And yet they look terrifying. Rudo in the bottom pointing at Zanka to attack, and Zanka looking like a complete menace. This was a beautiful way to portray how mad they are at Jabber and how they will fight against them with all their might, as they genuinely do look like monsters in this certain scenario. After all, they are in the underground world, and in comparison to heaven, these people down here are way scarier than they are up there. Jabber wakes up and realizes he's cooked, as he just laughed and looked up as he said that if it isn't the bad guy before he slammed down onto the ground. The cleaners had won. Jabber was unconscious and Zanka was out of it. After the whole fight, they pushed each other so hard in this situation because they both were countered in this fight. You see certain Jinky do well against others in comparison to themselves, as some Jinky can do well against Rudos, and then Rudos can do really well against their weakness is Jinky. It's like a certain scenario. It reminds me kind of JoJo's in this case, because the battles can go on until someone realizes how the abilities work. Though, of course, there is a power difference as well, because if you're not powerful enough, you're not going to be able to compete anyways. As early on in this fight, Rudo did get blitzed, even though he had the advantage in the moment. But when it comes to the top tiers, there's not a real gap between any one of them, which is why this certain game of chess is going to happen in their matchups, as we don't know what any of their abilities are from any of the top tiers in the future, or most of the characters that we see that are going to be a monster when we fight against. We don't even know some of the weaknesses to the guys that we know right now. That's why this chess game is going to be able to work, and that's why it's a beautiful way to have the matchups happen. But they had won. Nobody can really do anything now. The cleaners had won the situation, and Gris's pendant had went away. Rudo felt bad as he didn't mean to destroy it. He was worrying that it was gone and actually felt bad about it because it was precious to Gris. Rudo felt blame. He felt like it was his fault. He just felt bad over it. He was, in Zanka's eyes, Rudo was acting weird over it. But really, Rudo wasn't acting weird. That's how he is as a person. He doesn't view things as garbage. He just feels bad. Though he did get hit by something. This is why when Zanka asked if he was acting weird, he was. It wasn't because of the situation that he was crying over or feeling bad over. It was because he actually got hit by one of the claws. You see, each one of these claws have different types of poisons, which is what makes Jabber a complete monster. Jabber stands up and acts like nothing happened. You see, he looked at his claws and then started laughing. Zanka didn't realize what had happened. He said that it was a regenerative healing abilities type of claw. But Jabber just laughed, finding it pathetic he would think so. It wasn't to heal, it was just to make the toxin go away and make the damage go away in his body. Of course, he's still technically beat up and is just completely down for the count, but he doesn't feel the pain. He is just a complete monster in this case because he can just not feel whatever damage had come to him. But it only comes out for a certain amount of time. Only 10 minutes he can use this. As after those 10 minutes are up, he's going to be unconscious and out because of that just happened. Jabber was about to finish off Zanka as he wanted to end him for what had happened. Jabber picks up Rudo as he will be running away with him and taking him to the base. Rudo is pissed because he wants to move, he can't move his body, and he's calling it all his fault. All of the bad things that just happened in the moment is coming down to him, and he's feeling it in his heart. He's feeling bad for the situation. He doesn't want to go with Jabber. He doesn't want to do anything, but he can't move. Right before Jabber was about to escape, Ryo finds him as the cleaners have found the situation, and everyone was there. Engine blew away Jabber and just said good grief, as it was just a mess, but we see a low ton of healers behind them ready to fight. This was a group that will fight with all their hearts to protect their friends and family. Well, they are like family in this friend group, and make sure that nobody gets in their way because they are together. But there's someone in the midst that we should always keep in mind. They are there early from the very beginning. The trap was a great trap as they were sent underground very deep so they can't communicate with one another. But luckily enough, they knew exactly where the trail ended, and so they found the building that they were in. Jabber was just excited after Injin told one of the supports to go in there and find everyone and pull them out so they can all head home together. And just like Rudo thought, this guy was a complete weirdo, as Jabber said, yeah, he said that. After finding so many hard opponents. This guy is actually insane, by the way, because why would you say this after you're getting punked down by a couple cleaners, man? Like, this is just weird. I don't understand. But hey, he's a villain after all. Ryo actually had worry in her heart for Rudo as she was glad that he was alright. Someone said that he can barely breathe and was worried, and then the other guy was just pissed. He wanted to beat everyone up. You see, the cleaners are about to finish him off, and Jabber sees this as not a good thing at all. He was just excited to fight, as the escape plan failed. He has a mission to bring back the Sky Person. If he dies or if he wins, he doesn't care. All he needs to do is accomplish the mission. Right before Jabber was about to attack, one of the raiders had grabbed him from behind and took him away, telling him it was time, it's over, you lost. Jabber was pissed, but when he heard the boss said it, then he had to go. You see, he was happy because the boss was smiling ear to ear, and that's what he wanted to hear. There was a manhole on the wall as they were about to leave without any consequences that happened to them. All that happened was Rudo looked at Jabber pissed off with the situation and wanted to kill him for what had happened. Jabber is just a maniac as he didn't care about how Rudo felt. All he wanted was a good fight. But something that Jabber says here is very important. What Rudo is wearing, it is a part of a series. It is a specific design that is very important and needed because the boss also has the series and will be very delighted when he tells them, but they have to go. And Jabber just smiled and turned to Rudo saying to play again. He didn't care about anything. All he wanted was to make a mess and fight. Rudo was confused though over this series. After all, those gloves were given to him by Rekko. That is why when I said earlier that Rekko must have known about the underground world, this is why. Because how was he able to give these gloves to Rudo if they were just normal gloves and they were part of a series that were in the underground world? When they pull out Gris, Rudo went to immediately apologize. He apologized for his amulet. He apologized for what happened to Gris. And Gris didn't care. He was just happy that I helped Rudo and congratulated him for what he did in the fight. But even after the moment, Rudo felt hurt and looked down, pouting over the situation. Of course, nobody talked to Rudo until Gris was okay, as Injin walked over and told him that Gris knew the situation he was going to be in. And when he pulled Rudo in to see Gris, Rudo was surprised but happy that Gris was alive. Rudo already having this bond with the cleaners is very powerful because it shows us that the bond he had in heaven was nowhere near the same as people in here. As people treat him right, people care for him, people love him. And while he doesn't understand that just yet, he knows that they are there for him. That is why he is very powerful with the messaging that's going on in this arc. You see, they even play with him and say, oh, you worried for Gris, you worried for him, and messing with him and then playing with his hair. He was embarrassed and pissed off. He even yelled at Gris for pretending like he was hurt, but Gris just said, nah, it wasn't me, it was our healers, bro. Aisha is one of the greatest healers, so of course he's gonna just start telling her like, yeah, bro, like she just healed me completely, there's nothing I could really do about that. Like, yeah, I was out like that, but if it wasn't for her, I'd be dead. And because of her, I'm okay. That's why you can't be yelling at me. She's just like that, for real. She's the Michael Jordan of healing. They said that she's shy. She's a shy individual, which is okay. I mean, some people are like that. They don't understand the praises from others. And even though they're being praised, they don't think it's like that. Folo also thought Gris was dead as he was crying over the situation and almost just broke down seeing someone that has taught him so much almost pass away. Gris even told Rudo they did a fantastic job in that fight in the situation because not only was it a trap, it was someone that prepared for their abilities, which is why it was so special for what he did. Rudo was happy that Gris was alive, and so out of nowhere, the boss came in. Well, the boss has a very strong design and shows how powerful he is. He begins to talk about the situation and tells them that there's a border that they talked about. After all, we will learn in the future what the true meaning for the cleaners are, but for now, they're giving us hints for what they want to do. But this is the first time Rudo meets the boss. After all, the boss wasn't there when they first were supposed to meet, and so he meets himself as Arca Corvus, or just Corvus for now, since that's how they refer to themselves back in Japan. At first, the boss thought that he was only here for information, but when he heard that his goal was just to go back to heaven, he found it sort of surprising because of the situation he was under. He's seen how close the cleaners are together and didn't mind him joining at all because he worried for the cleaners the same way they worried about him. Rudo will be officially a cleaner member as he headed to the room, and the boss explained the situation of the cleaners. He tells Rudo that there's a woman that may have seen someone that crosses the border, and so Rudo decided that he will go there and find her to ask her questions because he wants to go back to heaven and get revenge on the people that hurt him. This will lead into the next arc, as Injin walks in, overheard everything, and will be joining Rudo in this journey to go find the lady that found someone that can cross the border. This is where I gotta end it. This is the Raiders trap arc explained. It's such a powerful arc for Rudo because he is someone that is undermined as garbage, and when he saw someone else be undermined that as well, it hurt him. He knew that they weren't like that because of how he was treated in heaven. Not only that, but the amulet as well, because it was something that mattered towards Gris. And we see how he cares over the people that do him right in comparison to people that just treat him wrong. That's why he's beginning to care more for the cleaners than he ever did for anyone in heaven. That's what makes the writing in this arc actually really fantastic very early on. Not only that, but the fighting choreography and the fighting in general was fantastic. It is a chess game. It's not, you can't just overpower it on your own, because if you could overpower it, Jabber would have won without much difficulty. So this is the Raiders trap arc completely explained.